Amazing receptionist silently changed a deaf visitor's life without knowing he was a millionaire. Emily's days at the clinic always began the same way, with the ringing of phones and the warm chatter of patients checking in. A smile was her armor, a bright facade crafted to hide the unease gnawing at her heart. Each patient that walked through the door was an opportunity to bring comfort, to attend to needs, to bridge the gap between care and connection. But with each passing day, a familiar darkness crept in, the suffocating weight of unfulfilled dreams. What was she doing with her life, really? That sunny spring morning felt different. Jack walked in, and the skin prickled on Emily's arms. His frayed jeans and unkempt hair were a startling contrast against the polished demeanor of downtown Chicago. The moment their eyes met, she recognized the anxiety etched on his face, deep in his dark eyes. Something about Jack tugged at her, igniting a spark of determination within her. She nodded, offering her signature smile, eager to bridge the silence that lay between them. As he silently mouthed his request for treatment, Emily instinctively reached for the pad on her desk, scribbling down basic questions. She noted his reluctance, the hesitant way he glanced around the room as if he were a ghost lingering at the edge of a party. She felt the urgency of his need. Did he feel unheard, invisible? She couldn't shake that sense, a craving to reach out, to pull him away from the shadows that seemed to envelop him. Weeks rolled on, and with each visit, she grabbed a few more lessons in sign language, her fingers dancing along with her newfound ability to communicate with Jack. Their exchanges grew warmer, filled with laughter and comfort, yet Emily remained unaware of the complex norm that surrounded Jack. Behind his quiet demeanor lurked the weight of losing a beloved wife, while the financial empire he had built felt like a constraint rather than a blessing. Yet the tension in Emily's world was mounting. Whispers of a corporate takeover hung heavy in the air, sending shivers down her spine. These corporate beasts threatened to strip away the very connections she fought for, the carefully woven tapestry of care and understanding that infused life into their clinic. The idea of being just another nameless voice in a busy practice turned her stomach. As anxiety loomed, a pivotal meeting was called to discuss the future of the clinic. Emily's hands trembled. Her heart raced as she overheard investors discussing bottom lines, disregarding the stories behind patient care. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed Jack seated at the back of the room, unease radiating from his still form. How could they ignore the heart of their practice, the warmth that Emily fought so hard to instill? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the atmosphere thickened with tension, Jack stood up, and the room fell silent. With a deep breath, he raised his hand, translating unvoiced feelings into visible passion, a plea to protect the soul of the clinic, to preserve the values of human connection that remained irreplaceable. Emily's heart raced, a mix of hope and despair coursing through her. What was at stake? Did he truly realize the battle they were facing? The intertwining of their fates hung precariously in the air, signaling that nothing would ever be the same again. Their lives, once filled with quiet moments, were on the cusp of colliding with an uncertain future, and the truth of Jack's identity lingered like a storm on the horizon. What would happen next? The room buzzed with an uneasy energy as Jack concluded his heartfelt plea, eyes scanning the crowd for comprehension amidst the corporate suits. Each face revealed varying degrees of indifference. Emily held her breath, her heart pounding against her ribcage. She was acutely aware of the storm brewing within her, the overwhelming desire to join him in this fight, to stand for the very values she cherished, to dare the tide of corporate machinery. Yet doubt whispered insidiously in her ear, questioning her competence to challenge the forces in play. "Jack, thank you," the clinic's director finally spoke, his voice cutting through the tension like a dull knife. Your passion is noted, but we must consider our financial responsibilities to ensure the clinic's survival. The dismissiveness in his tone stung like a slap, as Emily's cheeks burned with frustration. How could they prioritize profits over people? The meeting dragged on, but Emily's mind felt adrift in a sea of uncertainty. She could feel Jack's anxiety radiating from him, a palpable reminder of her own fears. What if their disagreement with the board signaled the end of the practice she had poured her heart into? She wrestled with the unsettling thought of a future devoid of the connections she valued most. After the meeting, Jack lingered, his presence suddenly filling the sterile office with significance. The faceless investors had left, but the ramifications of their decisions loomed large. "What do you think will happen?" he finally asked, his deep voice breaking the silence, and for the first time, Emily caught a glimpse of the vulnerability beneath his bravado. She hesitated, searching for the right words. "I think it's a fight worth having. We can't just let this happen." The response felt monumental. There was little consolation in her words, but a flicker of resolve ignited. Jack nodded slowly, an unreadable expression crossing his features. "It's more than just my battles, it's yours too. If they take this clinic, they'll take everything it stands for: trust, compassion, hope." His eyes bore into hers, calling forth a realization she had been reluctant to accept. She wasn't merely a receptionist or a small cog in the wheel of a corporate machine. She had the power to influence the fate of the clinic, to be more than just the facade others painted her as. Motivated by this revelation, Emily dove into research, poring over financial documents and strategizing her arguments with Jack patiently by her side. Each late-night conversation deepened their connection, blending professional aspirations with the vulnerability of shared stories. Jack spoke of his late wife, his dreams, all tinged with unhealed grief. As Emily listened, her heart expanded, weaving between their lives as Jack revealed himself layer by layer. Changes began taking shape at the clinic, too. Emily initiated a movement among the staff, urging their collective experience and values be brought to the forefront. This was not just a place for medical treatment. It was a sanctuary of trust, a called home for countless families. They would find ways to make their voices heard, together. But even as hope flickered within her, doubts loomed. Had she grown competent enough to make this stand? Would her voice, along with Jack's, be strong enough against the indifferent board? The stakes felt insurmountable. As the clinic braced for the impending showdown with the investors, Emily prepared herself for something more profound, a personal reckoning. While planning strategies, another thought unsettled her. Did she truly understand the extent of Jack's background? What were his motivations beyond the clinic? And as she pondered this, a sense of urgency rippled through her. With every decision emerging from this crossroads, both Emily and Jack's identities seemed intertwined in ways they had yet to fully comprehend. Would facing the looming corporate threat reveal hidden truths about themselves, or would it unravel something entirely different? The moment was approaching when each would have to decide. How much were they willing to risk for what they believed in? And as doubt settled on Emily's shoulders, she knew deep down that the real fight might just be beginning, and annihilation was the palpable price of failure. Emily spent the following days in a whirl of activity and introspection. Every morning brought a new wave of conflicting emotions. Resolute determination swayed with doubts that gnawed at her resolve. She had searched through spreadsheets late into the night, trying to decipher the clinic's financial situation, while also appealing to the staff for their input and support. It was invigorating to feel a sense of purpose, to take control, and yet suffocating to grapple with the implications of failure. One evening, as she sat at her desk surrounded by crumpled papers and coffee-stained documents, a question loomed large in her mind. What did it take to be a real leader? She had spent years in the background, a diligent worker, but never the one to take charge in front of the corporate giants. Yet here she was, on the precipice of a confrontation that could determine the clinic's fate, and perhaps redefine her own life. "What if I fail?" she whispered to herself, slumping back in her chair. The prospect of public speaking terrified her, yet it felt necessary. The board needed to hear not just numbers but the heartbeat of the clinic, the stories behind every case, the lives they touched. As she practiced her speech in the mirror, her voice faltered, revealing the tremor of uncertainty that still resided within. She felt like an imposter. Jack's presence continued to be a rock during these tumultuous days. He never judged her for her anxiety. Instead, he shared his own fears, revealing the depths of his vulnerability. "What does someone truly willing to risk everything look like?" he had asked her one night, and the question had resonated deeply within. The next morning, fueled by coffee and newfound resolve, Emily began working on something strategically distinct, a visual presentation that would put a face to their mission. She started compiling photographs of patients and stories that conveyed the clinic's impact on the community. As she pieced them together, she felt the weight of her responsibility tangibly lift. Yet beneath this building sense of purpose, trepidation still brewed. Would the board understand? Would they hear the story behind the numbers, or would they only see dollar signs? It was a gamble. The day of the meeting with the investors loomed near. The stakes were higher than ever. There was fear mixed with hopeful anticipation. If her presentation failed, what would that mean for the clinic, for Jack? What if they lost everything? As she paced in her small office, the door creaked open. It was a doctor from another department, someone she barely knew, yet he stood there with a solemn expression. "I overheard what you and Jack are trying to do. It takes guts to stand against them." The doctor's words struck a chord. "Thank you," Emily said, and unexpectedly, a wave of confidence surged through her. "We can't let this place become just another statistic." The doctor nodded. "You never know how your determination could influence those around you. People feel it. They'll follow a leader, especially one who shows heart." As the day unfolded into evening, Emily felt both terrified yet oddly liberated in her mission. A part of her realized the importance of this fight was about more than just the clinic. It was about her own growth. At that moment, she chose to ignite the flickering flame inside her. With hours left before the meeting, she put together the final touches on her presentation. The souls within the photographs weren't merely patients. They represented fighting spirits, hope, and resilience. It was a call to arms, not just against the board but against apathy towards compassion in healthcare. One final thought chased her as she prepared to present. Could she inspire not just change within the clinic, but also harness her own potential? As the clock ticked down to 0 hour, the door swung closed behind her, a mere echo of other voices lost in the noise of the looming board meeting. Emily took a deep breath, feeling unexpectedly grounded and ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The pivotal moment approached, one that would determine not just the fate of the clinic but the extent of her courage. Would she be able to transform her anxieties into strength, the silent battle into a roaring call for change? And just outside the door, an unexpected visitor waited, a stranger whose life might hinge on this very confrontation. In the hush of the boardroom, the air was thick with tension as Emily stood waiting for the meeting to commence. The polished surface of the mahogany table glinted under the ceiling lights, reflecting the cautious expressions of the board members. Each face could represent a vote, an endorsement of her efforts or a dismissal of her vision. With each passing second, her anxiety swirled. But as she reviewed her opening lines in her mind, they began to temper her fears. She recalled the patients shown in the photos, the stories she had gathered. That was her foundation. Those individuals were her motivation, far more significant than the corporate giants seated before her. But would they see it too? "Good morning," she began, her voice steadier than she had anticipated. "Thank you all for being here." As she delivered her presentation, every slide became more than mere images. They turned into a tapestry of lives impacted by their work. The warmth in her voice softened her resolve, igniting something within the room. Emily noticed nods of acknowledgement from a few board members, a flicker of hope engulfing her. Still, doubt loomed like a shadow. What if they rejected her? The relentless echo of her what-ifs threatened to consume her mid-presentation, but she pressed on, weaving passion and fact seamlessly. The presentation culminated in a vivid depiction of a young boy named Ethan, whose battle against illness had brought the team together, fostering not just medical expertise, but profound human connection. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. This is what we do, but it can't be reduced to numbers on a spreadsheet. If we lose this clinic, we lose hope for so many like Ethan. In that moment, the hum of voices faded and an unexpected interruption arose. A tall figure stood at the doorway, quietly observing. Their gaze met Emily's for an instant, and she faltered, unmoored by the stranger's intensity. Yet, she steadied herself with an internal reminder. This fight was for the clinic's future, for every story represented in her presentation. As she launched into a compelling summary of her funding strategies, the stranger stepped inside, taking a seat at the back. Emily's thoughts momentarily diverted. Who were they? As the meeting progressed, she fortified her stance on the clinic's financial viability, backing her claims with concrete data and proactive solutions. It was a calculated risk, yet a part of her felt liberated. This was advocacy on a grand scale. She was not merely an employee anymore. She was an agent of change. But the stranger's presence tugged at her focus, their composed aura starkly contrasting the tentative atmosphere in the room. Who were they that their calm could stir trouble or promise? Her instincts pricked, whispering that this moment might not merely change her career, but perhaps reshape her understanding of her own potential. When the board eventually deliberated, Emily held her breath, contemplating every vote, every comment, each one wrapped tightly around her future. The weight of uncertainty was unbearable, yet amidst the turbulence, she began feeling an ember glow inside her. She did not stand alone. Her heart raced with determination as she recognized this was more than a test of her professional capability. This was a defining moment of personal evolution. As the board moved to cast votes, an unexpected announcement came from the back. "Excuse me, could I share something?" Emily's heart skipped. The stranger stood, their voice resonating through the room. Could this confrontation pivot the outcome she so desperately sought? What had they come to reveal, and how would it shift the balance of this critical juncture? The stranger's voice broke the tense anticipation, drawing every gaze in the room to their imposing figure. "I believe I have a perspective that might add value to this discussion." Emily's mind raced. Who was this person? They had an air of authority that felt familiar yet unnerving. As the stranger walked to the front, every heartbeat echoed in her ears. She had poured her soul into this moment, and now it was being overshadowed. The clinic's impact is indeed profound. Their tone was calm and measured. But let's not forget the greater context of its sustainability. Predictably, such an operation requires vision beyond immediate needs. The board members exchanged looks, murmuring amongst themselves. Emily's unease transformed into a flicker of anger. Who dared to redirect her fire? Yet, she recognized that the stranger's assertions were pushing her out of her comfort zone. Just as she had crafted her narrative to be vivid and bold, they were now attempting to reshape the dialogue with their own insights. As they continued, Emily sensed an opportunity. With rapid calculations, she planned her next move. Rather than sit back, she would engage, championing the heart of the clinic while countering their analysis. This was a chance to display her knowledge and confidence, to prove she belonged at this table. "May I?" she interjected, her spirit igniting. She stood taller, the weight of doubt lifting slightly as she reclaimed the floor. "While I appreciate your perspective on sustainability, I believe it is crucial to emphasize our human element as the foundation for any sustainable model. Without connection, numbers mean little." The stranger paused. For a moment, silence enveloped the room, tension tinged with intrigue. Emily could feel the shift. Her passion resonated, and the board's attention returned to her. She recalled her data and brought forth a fresh statistic on patient outcomes, weaving it into the heart-centered narrative of their history. The stories, like Ethan's, are the engine driving our innovation. As she spoke, the details of her journey flashed in her mind. Countless hours spent poring over case studies, nights filled with anxiety, and the relentless pursuit of funding. Each sacrifice, every piece of knowledge gathered, sharpened her tools for this moment. She was no longer merely afraid of a slip. She was learning to wield her experience as a weapon. The stranger observed with a calculating gaze, almost as if they were assessing her. It invigorated her, spurring Emily to push further. She wanted recognition, not just for her project but for herself. A woman who had transformed her fear into resolve. "You see," she pressed on, her voice rising with confidence, "we aren't just fighting for a clinic. We are advocating for lives. Our funding isn't an expense, it's an investment in the community's future." The board responded with nods. Some even scribbled notes. The initial reservations ebbing away. Something had changed. This moment was worth, and she was becoming the leader she envisioned herself to be. The stranger's expression softened slightly, but only for an instant before returning to an inscrutable mask. Emily couldn't let this mystery unsettle her again. She had made her mark, and in doing so forged a new path forward, not just for the clinic, but for herself. As the meeting wrapped up, votes inching toward her favor, Emily felt exhilarated. Yet, a note of uncertainty lingered. Who were they really? What secrets of influence did they hold? Just as the board was set to conclude their decisions, the stranger stood. The air stilled once more, and Emily's heart pounded. "As I said, I have perspective," the stranger began, their voice smooth and commanding. "But it's not just about the clinic or its future. It's also about the bigger picture, and I might be able to help you with that." Emily tensed, her pulse racing. What could they possibly mean? The essence of her fight felt both affirmed and threatened in an instant, casting shadows over her victory. What revelation awaited, and how would it challenge everything she had worked for? Emily steadied her breath, her grip tightening around her notes as she mentally prepared for whatever revelation the stranger might present. The room, now charged with anticipation, hung on the stranger's every word. This was more than just an encounter. It was a crossroads in her career. "I come with connections," they continued, their gaze sweeping over the board, "and influence that could elevate your project beyond the confines of this boardroom. However, I need to understand your true vision first." A knot twisted in Emily's stomach. The stranger's apparent interest in her goals felt both like an opportunity and a trap. Would they redirect her vision yet again? "What are you suggesting?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. In that moment, Emily sensed the board's shifting dynamics. They were intrigued by the stranger, yes, but they were also drawn into the potential for compromise. The way to sustainability is often paved with support from the right players, investors who see past a singular goal toward a shared future, they replied. However, to draw them in, you must first define what that future looks like. What is your real vision for the clinic beyond these walls? The question sent Emily into reflection. She had focused so intently on the immediate needs that she had neglected to articulate a broader vision. What would the clinic represent 5 years from now? Beyond its walls, who would it serve? "I envision a clinic that not only supports patients but acts as a model of holistic care, integrating mental and physical health," she replied, her pulse quickening as the vision crystallized in her mind. "Up until now, we've been reactive. It's time to take a proactive approach, addressing societal needs through our innovations." The interest in the room shifted back in her favor. Emily could sense the board feeling the resonance of her words. She continued, fueled by a newfound purpose. "This is not just a clinic. It is a beacon of hope. We have the potential to optimize both patient care and community health outcomes." The stranger nodded slowly, their expression inscrutable but more engaged than before. "Very well articulated. But there's one question that remains. How do you plan to secure the resources necessary for this ambitious vision? You seem to have the passion. What about the strategy?" The room felt electric with their inquiry. It was a pressing reminder of the many pieces she still must align. She needed not only funding, but allies, people who understood the importance of a unified vision. "I'm fully aware that the journey entails significant hurdles," she said, her pulse thundering in her ears. "Yet, I've already laid the groundwork. Our collaboration with local organizations has begun to forge partnerships that could enhance our outreach. We must also explore grant opportunities on a broader scale." The stranger remained focused, eyes narrowing slightly as if gauging the strength behind each syllable. Emily's stomach churned again. as if she were not only facing an audience but also her own doubts. Feeling supported by her earlier performance, she took a bold leap. If you believe in this vision, would you be willing to help me navigate those connections you mentioned? It's not just about leveraging opportunities, it's about creating a movement. A brief silence settled, tension mingling with hope. The stranger leaned forward slightly, eyes sharp and calculating. That's the spirit I like to see, but it will take more than passion and a few connections. Are you prepared for what that entails? A surge of determination pushed Emily forward. Yes, I am. I'm ready to face any challenges that come with it. This is bigger than just me or the clinic. It's about transforming healthcare. Very well, the stranger replied, a hint of intrigue dancing in their voice. Prepare yourself then, Emily. The path towards that ambition is fraught with complexities, but together, we may just be able to change the discourse. As the meeting finally wrapped up, a sense of accomplishment filled Emily. Yet beneath that lay an undercurrent of fear. Was she truly prepared for the responsibilities that accompanied such a goal? Just before the group dispersed, the stranger locked eyes with her and added, "Remember, the biggest challenges will come not from the outside, but from within. You'll need to confront your own limitations if you want to make this vision a reality." With that, they turned, leaving Emily with a mixture of exhilaration and dread. The awakening of her ambition had begun, but what was she truly willing to sacrifice to sustain it? The next chapter of her journey loomed ahead, and she would need to decide just how high she was prepared to climb. Emily sat in her office, staring blankly at the wall, the gravity of the stranger's words weighing heavily on her mind. The sense of achievement she had felt moments ago was quickly overshadowed by self-doubt. Her aspirations for the clinic felt monumental, possibly unattainable, and the looming question of her own limitations lingered like a specter. How would she gather the strength to transcend her self-imposed barriers? The weight of responsibility loomed larger than the vision she crafted that day. What if she faltered? What if her strategic plans crumbled under the pressure? Each question burrowed deeper into her psyche, threatening to dismantle her newfound confidence. Determined to quell the uncertainty, she opened her laptop, a lifeline tethering her to clarity. Emily's fingers paused over the keyboard, hesitating. What if she began documenting not just her vision for the clinic, but also the journey ahead? She started typing, pouring out her thoughts: potential partnerships, grant opportunities, community outreach strategies. The act brought a surge of purpose, reminding her why she embarked on this path. Yet in the recesses of her mind, the stranger's challenge echoed. She needed to confront her limitations. Could she genuinely transform her fractured confidence into actionable strategies? A whisper of hope ignited. Perhaps she could lean on her team. She scheduled a meeting with her core staff, her closest allies in the clinic. As they gathered, she felt the familiar warmth of camaraderie. Speaking up, she unveiled her vision once again, but this time with a focus on collaboration, reinforcing that they were all part of something greater. We have to believe in our capacity to affect change, not just for our patients, but for the community at large, she urged, her voice steady. To make this a reality, I need you all in this together with me. Tension dissolved as they shared their ideas, transforming abstract aspirations into concrete plans. Each suggestion sparked light in her mind. They discussed outreach programs, mental health workshops, and the integration of services. The energy shifted within the room, palpable enthusiasm propelling them forward. This was a moment of collective strength that Emily had unknowingly summoned. As the meeting concluded, a sense of urgency descended. The next steps had to be defined, not only to fortify their position but to perform incredible outreach by garnering the necessary resources. They broke into smaller groups to tackle specific challenges. Emily's excitement collided with the realization that this was just the beginning of a far more intricate dance. Days turned into weeks as stakeholder conversations unfolded, the rhythm of follow-up calls melding into analyses and strategies. Yet, despite the progress, moments of doubt compounded. Every conversation with potential investors was tinged with her fear of inadequacy, of that nagging feeling of being out of her depth. Was she truly the person to lead such an ambitious initiative? The prospect of failing to fulfill her vision darkened her days. Late one evening, while poring over an investor's past projects, an unsettling thought took root. What if she wasn't meant to lead this endeavor? That self-questioning spiraled into a disorienting night. Could it be that she was not merely unwilling to climb the mountain ahead, but also too scared to make the ascent? The next morning, emboldened by a restless night, she revisited her notes. Teaming up with the stranger who offered their connections seemed vital, but the decision must come anchored in self-belief. Drawing deep breaths, she resolved to meet the stranger again, ready to confront their expectations and her doubts. There would be no more hiding. The journey demanded transparency and courage. With the meeting set, Emily's pulse raced. Each step toward that new encounter felt both like an obstacle and an opportunity. She would not only gain knowledge and connections, but, perhaps more significantly, she would confront the fears that had long held her back. The stakes had never felt higher, and just as she prepared to step closer to this pivotal moment, her phone buzzed with an unexpected message from the stranger, reshaping her anticipation into trepidation. Let's address the challenges you spoke of, and unveil the reservations that could otherwise be your undoing. The moment of truth arrived, pressing Emily with a new realization. It was time to redefine the boundaries of her own capabilities and answer the questions that echoed within. Emily sat at her desk, staring at her phone, gripping it tightly. The stranger's message lingered in her mind. What did they mean by challenges and reservations? Clarity was still a wavering light on the horizon, but she knew she couldn't avoid the confrontation any longer. With a deep breath, she opened her calendar and saw that their meeting was just hours away. As the clock ticked down, Emily's mind raced through possible scenarios. What if the stranger pressed her too hard? What if they saw right through her? Shadowed doubts flickered like dark wings, threatening to engulf her fierce determination. Yet in each rising wave of anxiety, Emily sensed a growing resolve. Failure was foreign but wouldn't define her pursuit. She refused to let fear drive her decisions any longer. When the time arrived, she found herself in a small coffee shop, the aroma of fresh brew mingling with the trepidation curling in her stomach. She noticed the stranger seated at a corner table, their demeanor calm and collected, but their presence ignited a storm within her. With measured steps she approached, reminded of the commitment she'd made to herself. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Emily," they replied with a nod, gesturing for her to sit. "I hope you've had time to reflect on our last discussion." I sensed hesitation. The words struck like a bell, resonating within the recesses of her mind. "I'm trying to turn my doubt into something actionable. I want to lead, but I've been battling my own self-definition," she admitted, the vulnerability surfacing with surprising ease. The stranger's gaze held hers. "Acknowledging that doubt is the first step, but what will you do with it?" Suddenly, a multitude of thoughts collided. For too long, Emily had shielded herself from the discomfort of confrontation, both within and around her. She understood that leading meant not only strategizing but also embracing her own vulnerabilities. "I want to confront my limitations, but I need guidance. I don't want this vision to remain just a dream," she confessed. "Then let's define the limitations together," they said, leaning forward. "Outlining what you perceive as your barriers is crucial. It's time for clarity." Their encouragement stirred something deep within her. It wasn't just about asking for help. It was about claiming her right to challenge her own perceptions. The stranger's probing questions brought her introspection into sharp focus. She began to articulate the fears that had plagued her. A fear of incompetence, the worry of disappointing not just herself but everyone who believed in her vision. "So what's stopping you?" They pressed gently. "Is it truly about your abilities, or is it the fear that you're not enough?" The questions cut deeper than she anticipated. Emily realized her hesitations didn't stem from external expectations, but from an internal narrative, one she could rewrite. I think I've been afraid of failing publicly. If I can't achieve my goals, it reflects on me," she admitted, her voice lower, revealing more than she intended. Then it is time to transform that fear into motivation, they replied, their tone unyielding yet supportive. Develop a framework that acknowledges your growth, your learning, and your strengths. Suddenly, Emily felt a rush of clarity. Her stumbling blocks weren't insurmountable. They became stepping stones in her personal narrative. I need to document not only my strategies but also my progress, my evolution, she responded, a spark igniting in her spirit. I will face the fear of failure. I can redefine my potential. As they continued to discuss her newfound approach, a thrilling surge of possibility enveloped Emily. She wouldn't retreat into the shadows of doubt. Instead, she would harness every experience, good and bad, as essential elements of her journey. After their meeting concluded, Emily emerged from the coffee shop with a newfound sense of purpose. No longer would the fear of inadequacy dictate her actions. The horizon now lay wide open with opportunities, and she would navigate the complexities ahead with renewed vigor. Just as she turned to leave, her phone chimed again, a new message illuminating the screen. This time it was more than just an investor's inquiry. It was a lifeline. I have a compelling proposal that could reshape your clinic's vision. We should discuss it at your earliest convenience. The thrill of opportunity mingled with apprehension as she contemplated her response, standing at the crossroads of potential and anxiety once more. The moment for decision was upon her, not just about the clinic, but about her role in all of it. Would she seize the moment and take a leap of faith, or would she let old fears hold her back again? In that single heartbeat of uncertainty, Emily realized the next step was far more significant than she imagined. As Emily walked out of the coffee shop, the brisk air filled her lungs with sharp clarity. She pressed her phone against her palm, feeling the weight of the message integrate with her renewed determination. The words of the stranger lingered in her mind, transforming fear into motivation, embracing vulnerability for growth. This was the time to act decisively, and she tightened her grip on the device, the pulse of her potential quickening with each step. The proposal loomed large, an enticing opportunity that could redefine her professional landscape. Yet, her thoughts encircled a growing tension. What if the proposal was a hollow promise? What if, in her eagerness, she overlooked crucial details? The specter of past failures swirled in the back of her mind, whispering reminders of her insecurities. She knew she had embarked on a journey of self-reinvention, but now she faced the reality that each step would come with risks attached. Determined to make a decisive choice, Emily found herself at a small park nearby. The vibrant hues of autumn leaves formed a beautiful backdrop to her thoughts as she sat on a weathered bench. With her phone now facing her, she began drafting a response with careful precision. She realized this wasn't just a business opportunity. It was a test of her resolve to claim her authenticity, a challenge to mold her professional narrative into one that resonated with her personal truth. What would she ask? Clarity seemed paramount. She needed to paint a picture of her vision and understand how this proposal aligned with it. That meant confronting her doubts head-on, channeling them into questions that would reveal the real value behind the enticing promises. As she typed, a trickle of inspiration surged through her fingers. She articulated not only what she wanted from the partnership, but also laid bare her commitment to transparency and collaboration. Every keystroke reflected her decision to own her narrative, to reject the silencing fear that had lingered for too long. Emily took a deep breath, clicked send, and watched the bubbles indicate the message was on its way. In that split second, an uneasy thrill replaced the lingering anxiety. She wasn't simply waiting for a reply. She was standing firm in her own vision. With a sense of purpose, she decided to outline a plan for her clinic, incorporating the ideas she had discussed with the stranger. Myriad possibilities unfurled in her mind as she sketched out the framework she would present. It underlined her commitment to not just herself, but also the patients who were counting on her. Yet as the day drifted into twilight, a gnawing uncertainty remained. What if this proposal unraveled into yet another disappointment? Would she find herself caught in a cycle of hope and despair, a place she had fought so hard to escape? The more she reflected, the more she realized that the stakes were personal, far beyond her clinic's success. This was about validating her self-worth, her place as a leader, Then an unexpected figure crossed her path, an elderly man with an air of quiet strength. He was seemingly lost, his eyes scanning the environment for something just outside his reach. Emily noted the way he hesitated, a mirror reflecting her own sense of indecision. She felt an urge to approach him, to contribute something meaningful in that moment. Perhaps it was a reminder that everyone, including herself, had untapped potential waiting to be uncovered. "Are you okay, sir?" she asked, pausing next to him. His gaze met hers, gratitude radiating from his demeanor. "I'm trying to find my way to the clinic nearby. I have an appointment with a doctor." In an instant, everything shifted. Emily's focus sharpened. The significance of the moment crystallized. This interaction was an opportunity to reinforce her own capabilities. The feelings of uncertainty morphed into resolve. She could be a guide, a facilitator of change, ensuring someone else's journey was as intentional as her own. "Let me show you the way," she offered, stepping forward with confidence. As they walked together, each step felt like a reaffirmation of her commitment to embrace every challenge, to lead even when the path was unclear. But as they rounded the corner towards the clinic, a troubling thought penetrated her moment of calm. What if this seemingly ordinary man was more than he appeared? What if his life held secrets that would ripple through her own journey in ways she had yet to understand? With that new question lingering heavily in the air, Emily steered them toward the entrance, her heart beating faster in anticipation of the unpredictable possibilities that awaited them both. Within the bustling corridors of the clinic, Emily felt a fresh surge of energy coursing through her veins. The encounter with the elderly man had ignited something within her. Each step she took alongside him was a reminder of her own transformative journey. She had gone from being a woman overshadowed by her insecurities to a proactive leader entangled in visions of compassion and hope. As they entered the clinic, she noticed the way the staff worked together, their camaraderie palpable. Each face reflected the ethos she had poured herself into. Patients were not just statistics, they were lives to be cherished. For the first time, Emily recognized that her path was not just about financial sustainability or corporate strategies. It was about weaving the human experience into every thread of care provided. "Here you are," she said warmly, guiding the elderly man to the reception desk. "The staff will take great care of you." He smiled, gratitude illuminating his features, an affirmation of the power of connection. In that moment, Emily felt a swell of resilience. This was the purpose she had long sought, and it was unfolding right before her eyes. As she turned to leave, a familiar voice caught her attention. It was Jack, his face creased with a blend of pride and admiration. "I saw how you engaged with him. That was remarkable," he said. "You truly have a gift, Emily." Something within her shifted. His words were not just kind, they were affirmations of the growth she had achieved. Reflections of her earlier fears flickered away, replaced by a solid sense of competence. No longer did she feel like an imposter in her own skin. She had conquered her doubts, and now she was reshaping lives, not just her own. With renewed purpose, Emily gathered her team for a meeting, determined to share Chechi's proposal with them. She introduced her vision for collaboration, presenting the compelling ideas she'd honed while discussing with the stranger. This time, the air buzzed with excitement as they reacted positively, sparking a great exchange of thoughts and strategies. The connection she formed felt like a validation of her journey, a testament to her ability to lead. "Let's co-create a plan that embodies our mission," she urged. "We are not merely a clinic, we are a community. Together we can transcend barriers and embrace innovations that genuinely impact lives." Her colleagues were eager now, their support a chorus harmonizing with her aspirations. They broke away into groups, eager to brainstorm and take ownership of various aspects of her expanding vision. Emily found herself propelled forward by their energy. This collaborative approach was the embodiment of her leadership principles, fueled by authenticity and shared purpose. Weeks rolled by in a whirlwind of activity. Proposals were drafted, outreach programs implemented, and the narrative of the clinic transformed. But even amidst the whirlwind, Emily carried a lingering caution about the stranger who had first introduced the notion of partnerships. They had promised guidance, yet Emily wrestled with the knowledge that true leadership meant navigating the complexities of every relationship. Finally, she found the courage to reach out to the stranger once more, seeking clarity on their intentions. "I have embraced the vision, but I seek your guidance on scaling it up," she shared. "How can we bridge our aspirations into actionable goals together?" The stranger replied promptly, their response laced with understanding. "You're developing your vision, but remember, true leadership demands resilience and the ability to challenge the status quo. You must be prepared to redefine every boundary that intersects with your ambitions, including my role." With each word, Emily felt the texture of her potential sharpen. She was realizing a crucial truth. It wasn't merely about her quest for validation. It was about forging a path and orchestrating change. She was evolving into not just a leader for the clinic, but a voice for a vision that transcended the clinic's walls. In the weeks leading up to their public announcement, Emily's transformation became undeniable. She drew strength from each interaction, recognized the depth of her connections with her staff and patients, and forged alliances born from shared values. When the time arrived to unveil their expanded vision, she experienced an electric current of anticipation. As she stood in front of a packed audience, the clinic staff, patients, and community members, Emily opened her speech with a renewed vigor. "Today isn't just about our clinic's future. It's about the very essence of human connection that drives us. We are not just healers but storytellers, advocates for those who may feel lost." The crowd erupted into applause, the echo of their support a thunderous affirmation of her journey. As she delved into their mission, the impact of their efforts became tangible. How they had empowered individuals, connected families, and inspired hope. And then, in a climactic moment, the stranger appeared at the back of the room watching silently, their presence both unsettling and invigorating. Emily paused, holding their gaze, understanding fully that this journey wasn't solely about the clinic. It was a reflection of her own evolution. As she concluded, she felt solid confidence surging within her. The applause washed over her, affirming the growth she had achieved. In the eyes of her colleagues, she saw recognition. Their faith in her felt like a shield against the world. Behind the applause was the sense of accomplishment. Emily had achieved not just a personal goal, but forged a trajectory toward healing and compassion that would ripple through every life they touched. In that moment, she understood this was the true resolution. She had not only transformed herself, but had also inspired others to claim their narratives, recognizing that every story mattered. She had proven, without a doubt, that she was a beacon of change. And with that understanding settled into her core, she knew deep down that she was equipped to shape the future, not just for the clinic, but for every individual who crossed its threshold. The forgotten, the lost, the invisible, their lives intertwined with hers, revealing the heart of the potential she had just begun to explore. Now was the moment to share this revelation, this culmination of her journey, with the world. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that unveil personal transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support storytellers who strive to inspire doubt into strength. Comment your reactions and theories about Emily's incredible evolution and how she faced her fears. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this profound conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share the light of this journey.